Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, Joe True and Love. Here's your AEW Dynamite review for May 4th, 2022. May the 4th be with you all, as it is time for another AEW Dynamite review. A solid show, hailing from Baltimore. Some good matches on the show, as next week we start the Owen Hart Cup tournaments for the men. I'm not sure if the women do as well, but we got the final of the qualifying matches on tonight's show, so good stuff to go over. But the two big parts of tonight's show, or tonight's Dynamite, was Big Cass, a.k.a. William Morrissey, a.k.a. W. Morrissey, made his anticipated AEW debut, as he was the most recent mercenary hired by MJF to take out Wardlow. They had a pretty good match in their own right. Of course, Morrissey, the former Big Cass, former teaming with Enzo. We know that team was broken up prematurely, and Cass, Cass did okay, but nowhere right in his singles run in WWE. And recently on Impact and the Indies, he's done really well for himself. For Enzo, obviously we know the accusations and whatnot. Ended his time there, so there was that. But yeah, Morrissey looked great on Dynamite against Wardlow, and hopefully we see more of Morrissey from here on out. And then in the main event, we had the Undisputed Ring of Honor Women's Championship match between Deonna Purazzo and Mercedes-Martias. Deonna Purazzo making her AEW debut. The Virtuosa. They had a pretty good match. It felt like the crowd, though, was a bit, not that much into it, the match. But nonetheless, heck of a match and heck of a debut, as Mercedes-Martias is the undisputed Ring of Honor Women's Champion. But I'll go over it on the... Also, we got Hangman Adam Page returning on the show tonight. He tested positive for COVID. He went through COVID protocols last week. Missed the show, but he's back on Dynamite. He had some heelish manners about him. So there was that. But get into the review first. But first, thank you for joining me. If you're new to the podcast and if you want and you like these pro wrestling reviews regarding AEW or etc., you want to see more pro wrestling reviews, you can find them on the description. Click right there. And on the channel, find more videos there. AEW Dynamite and Rampage and pay-per-views, etc. So, AEW Dynamite. Start off with a heck of a match. Between Jeff Hardy and Bobby Fish. Owen Hart Cup qualifier match for the 6th spot in the tournament. You know, this was kind of a weird match to predict, I would say, but considering how much Jeff Hardy and Matt have included Darby Allin's name as a potential opponent the last couple of weeks, it kind of made sense. It kind of made sense for Jeff Hardy to go over here, but this is a good match. So it's crazy how two guys. Well, I think Bobby Fish is over 40 years old. Jeff, I think, is in his late 30s. I think late 30s, early 40s. But it's interesting how these two guys have not faced one another. This was really a first-time matchup. So the match started off, back and forth, kind of like the devil you don't, as in, back and forth, counter for counter. And then they were on the outside, and Bobby Fish got grasp of Jeff Hardy's left leg and did dragon screw to Jeff Hardy into the barricade, which he went back first into the barricade, which took him out for the time being. Back from break, Fish hit a sequence of kicks. He had a roundhouse kick to the face, level Hardy, but Jeff fired back with some offense, and then he went for the Swanton Bomb, it looked to be, or went on the top rope. Bobby Fish countered, hit a kick which dropped Jeff on the top rope. Then Bobby Fish his Avalanche Falcon Arrow for a good near fall. Then as Jeff kicked out, walked on to the injured leg into a knee bar, but Jeff got to the bottom rope. So Jeff then fired back, hit the Whisper in the wind, almost missed Fish but barely got him. And then hit the Swanton Bomb. 1, 2, 3. Jeff Hardy gets the victory over Bobby Fish and advances for the Owen Hart Cup tournament. And it was announced later in the show, Jeff Hardy versus Darby Allin. First round matchup in the tournament starting next week in Long Island. Should be fun. A dream match of sorts, I would say. So we got Blackpool Combat Club vignette. It looked like William Regal, Will Yuta, Bryan Danielson, and Jon Moxley were in a gym training. And, again, Will Yuta, the young blood, the newest addition. Then trying to teach the guy a thing or two more. and get them more in sequence into the group. So then we got the Blackpool Combat Club versus Angelico Butcher and the Blade of the Andrade family office. You know, it is a bit weird. I mean, I get it. We didn't see him a lot, but it is a little weird seeing Angelico in a tag team match, or trios match rather, without Jack Evans. And it was announced that Jack Evans' contract had expired and he's not re-signing. There's also a bit worried about Sue Grayson's deal, but nothing's really confirmed too much, so not going to go in depth about that. But it is a bit strange seeing one of the hybrid without the other. Pretty straightforward, chaotic match. You know, Moxley, he was tossing the blade all over the place, doing the timekeeper table, doing back in the ring, landing some shots. You know, good strength by Yuta. He landed a German suplex on the Butcher, and the Butcher we know is no small man. And made a hot tag, obviously. There was another one of those spots at the end of the match where we had all three members. We had Moxley, Bryan, and Yuta all laying in shots on their opponents. Yuta tossed, I believe, Blade or Butcher out of the ring. The Blade was in a rear naked choke by Jon Moxley, and Bryan Danielson had a triangle choke on Angelico, and Angelico tapped out. So there's that. The Blackpool Combat Club get another victory. You know, you know, based on the sequence of events happen later in the show, it seems to be that, well, if I can guess, because I mean, I pitch it for weeks, but there's also the possibility, because Bryan Danielson, Yuta, and Jon Moxley have been a very formidable trio thus far. And with Aleister Black feuding with the Dead Triangle again, looks to be that the main match to look forward to is one of those teams versus the Blackpool Combat Club. So we'll see how it goes, but something to see. I just can't wait for the trio titles to come soon. You know, it still takes me a bit to adjust for Yuta with Bryan and Moxley, but the more they wrestle with each other, the more, you know, it's getting used to them as a trio. Team Taz were backstage, Powers Hobbs and Ricky Starks. They were being asked about their challenge to Jurassic Express for a match next week, or a match for tag team titles. Jungle Boy, Luchasaurus, and Christian Cage, they all chimed in. Picture saying that Jurassic Express, they accept the challenge of Team Taz for the titles, but Jungle Boy said that he wants to raise the stakes. So he challenged Ricky Starks to a match for the FTW title next week. So there's that. So that should be a fun match next week. Ricky Starks, Jungle Boy, should be good. Now, Jungle Boy ain't gonna win the FTW Championship. I think that's safe to say. So my guess is Ricky Starks is gonna win in some strange fashion, and then when we get to tag team title match, that Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus will get their win back. That's what I think, but it should be a fun match to look forward to next week between Starks and Jungle Boy. Wardlow. Big man Wardlow, who gets more over week by week, is going to become a big player for years to come and going to be an AEW World Champion in the future. Probably not near future, but in the future. Against, I mentioned earlier, W. Morrissey, aka the former Big Cass. This was a fun big man matchup. You know, and for my football fans who are also watching, John Harbaugh, the head coach of the Baltimore Ravens, was spotted in the crowd. And apparently, well, there was also a moment later in the show, but it was interesting to know that John Harbaugh and Brian Pillman were roommates in high school or college, one of those two, but a fun little dynamic to this show. But this is good. So Wardlow again was escorted and handcuffed while on his way to the ring. So then MJF, Shawn Spears, they came out. MJF said that he's no longer going to watch from the skybox, but he'll be watching in the back. And the hired gun he's picked this time is someone who's bigger than him, who is smarter than him, and someone who's never had an out in their life. So then he welcomed Big Dub, W. Morrissey, and looks as in good a shape as ever. I mean, geez, for a big guy, is cool to see. So it's funny, he gave MJF a high five, and then he looked away and left Shawn Spears hanging. So that was a little funny there. So he came out and, just the interesting presence, because it was noted in the graphic, the tallest guy Wardlow has ever faced. because you can tell that guy, he just towered over Wardlow. I mean, Archer, he's big, but he's not as tall as Morrissey, which is surprising. A little surprising, but this was an interesting test, but good stuff here. So it's kind of, filling each other out because big guys, trying to get the advantage. Wardlow powered Morrissey into corner. Then a bit of back and forth. Landed some splashes, but Morrissey then finally opened things up. He had a big boot, leveling Wardlow. Then he hit a clothesline, sending Wardlow to the outside. It's funny, as they were on the outside brawling, weird chance of, "We want Enzo," followed by, "No, we don't." That was hilarious. And then Morrissey, we saw, heckled the crowd a bit. Gave him a gesture. So that was a little funny there. He sent Wardlow into the post. Banged his head off the apron a couple times. Back in the ring. Morrissey hit a black hole slam for a nice near fall. Then it looked like it was going to go for a top rope back suplex. But elbows by Wardlow set him off. Wardlow then hit a moonsault on Morrissey and landed on his feet. I'm not too sure if that was how it was supposed to go, but still impressive feat by Wardlow, who is no small guy, 270. I mean, no small athlete, that's for sure. So he hit the moonsault, knocking Morrissey down. Then we know with the Powerbomb Symphony by Wardlow, it's multiple powerbombs. But here against the 7-foot-tall Morrissey, it took just one powerbomb by Wardlow for the win. And there's that. Wardlow gets a victory. Morrissey has a solid showing in his first match in AEW. I would not be surprised if we see him back. I mean, not sure about his contract situation with Impact, but, I tell you, I would not be against him being used more in AEW. So Wardlow, after match, looked like he was getting ready to be handcuffed and escorted out. But then he was like, screw it. So he then was assaulting the security escort that was going to escort him out. So he took care of all the security guards. And then MJF and Shawn Spears, they made their way back onto the stage. Wardlow yelled that he will not stop until he gets his hands on MJF and MJF releases him of his contract. So then MJF proposed a match, an idea. He said, how about if we have a match, and if you win, I'll release you of your contract. But he says he has conditions. And then so the whole commentary was like, of course, go figure. So MJF said he's not going to release those conditions in a dumpster fire like Baltimore. He said he's going to disclose those conditions in the greatest place in the world, Long Island, New York, MJF's hometown, next week in a contract signing. So next week in MJF's hometown, in a contract signing, MJF and Wardlow, which I'm assuming is for Double or Nothing. And we saw how awarded MJF was by the crowd in Long Island the last time. So I can only figure it's not going to go well for Wardlow next week. That's just a thought. But it should be interesting. Although, now thinking about it, I'm a little curious now more because excuse me, sorry. So, MJF said that if Wardlow wins, he'll release him of his contract. And, now, they could do what Triple H did in the Cruiserweight Classic for Cedric Alexander a couple years ago. Despite him losing, Triple H came out and gave Cedric a contract sign. And, with Drake Maverick and that's storyline a couple years ago with his deal. So, I mean, it is interesting to see. It is very interesting. But, because MJF, I don't want to see take a loss again for a while. And Wardlow, I mean, yes, he's white hot, but he's taken a bunch of momentum as of late. So I think in a ticky-tacky loss, but at the same time with the conditions, we'll have to see about the conditions, but you're a little curious about the finish. It is something to keep an eye on. But either way, the match should be fun. Tony Storm, Britt Baker, Ruby Soho, and Jamie Hayter were backstage. Back there to talk about their match for Rampage on Friday, their tag team match, which will be a different start time. It'll be 5:30 due to the NBA playoffs. Go figure. But there's a little stuff there. Ruby said, well, Britt mocked how Britt and Tony or Ruby and Tony were kind of wearing the same, emo black crop tops. And then Ruby said, we can't wait to humble you like you deserve to be on Friday's Rampage. And they both said that neither of them is backing up. So Tony was like, okay, well, let's just cut away to the end of the show. And then right away, Tony went from the back to in the ring. Welcome, AEW World Champion Hangman Adam Page. Good to see he's healthy again. Obviously, I mentioned earlier, last week, COVID protocols. He tweeted out So good that he's back. Although it wasn't for that long. But still, good to see Hangman because really the build so far, although it's been short, still it's been all CM Punk, so it's good to hear Hangman. He sounded very heelish in this segment, which was quite interesting. So his manners were very serious, because prior to that Texas Death match with Lance Archer, he was getting vibes of a champion who doesn't seem like a world champion, really. And then, but in this segment, he sounded really, serious. He sounded very just like, dominant how he should. Because, of course, people have heckled and criticized Hangman for his title reign. And very good promo. So, he said that he will destroy and he will embarrass CM Punk. He said he hates to be the bearer of bad news, but Punk's not there tonight. Paige got quite a bit of boos in Baltimore. So that was interesting. There was a CM Punk fan in the crowd who's wearing a CM Punk shirt. Didn't really see it, but Hangman said, "Hey, I can't wait. Hey, after Double or Nothing, you might as well be back to the merchandise stand with that shirt if you haven't burned it yet." So there's a little heelish moment there. And there was that. So, Hangman, this could just be the, the Bryan effect, because when they went with Bryan versus Hangman, Bryan turned heel because, of course, no one's going to boo Hangman against Bryan. And, of course, you want to build him up as that credible face champion. And, of course, it's a weird dynamic going into this match at Double or Nothing. No one's going to boo CM Punk. That's the weird thing. And people love Hangman, but he's not really on that level, I don't think, of CM Punk as far as over with the crowd. So, this could be just a simple way. Now, we thought, okay, Bryan was going to. Now he is back to pretty much a tweener or a babyface now. But after that Hangman feud, he stayed a heel for a little bit. So I'm curious to see if it's that dynamic, or I don't know, we'll see. But we still got a few more weeks to go till May 29th. So bit curious to see how the rest of it will go. Sorry, I'm taking down notes to the top of my computer so that way, in case you haven't noticed, I'm not looking down because I know it's for my notes. I usually take them and then read off them down on my desk, but I figure it might look better for this time, at least, to take my notes top of my computer and then ream off there. So at least I'm kind of looking more towards the camera more often, but I'm not sure how it looks, but hopefully it looks better. So we got Chris Jericho versus Santana. A grudge match, really. This was okay. Nothing a lot. I mean, of course, the JAS and Santana Ortiz and A. Kingston are feuding currently. But this is an alright match. Nothing much to it. They were brawling before the bell. And interesting spot. So Santana moved the steel steps on the outside when they were brawling. And then Jericho with his springboard or his middle rope dropkick to his opponent on the apron. So the steps were set up interestingly. So Jericho did a dropkick and Santana landed on the steps that were right set up outside. So instead of falling to the floor, Santana landed on the steps, kind of the side. So interesting stuff there. Santana, he hit the Three Amigos. Again, homage to Eddie Guerrero, one of Jericho's very famous former opponents. They were fighting on the top rope, but Santana still managed to hit a frog splash for their fall. Jericho, he locked in the walls, but Santana got to the ropes. Jericho thought he won, but instead Santana landed a roll up on Jericho for their fall. Santana hit then a rolling cutter, followed with a lariat. There was chaos on the outside, with Ortiz and the rest of JAS and Floyd the Bat. So, in the end, as Matt Menard had the referee Aubrey Edwards distracted, Jericho hit a low blow, followed the juice effect on Santana. 1, 2, 3, and Jericho gets the win over one of his former trainees or pupils in the inner circle, and there was assault on Santana Ortiz after by the JS and the Appreciation Society stand tall. There's that. Samoa Joe, one of the guys who already qualified for the Owen Hart Cup tournament. So it was announced that Jay Lethal was going to face one of the rising stars of Japan who has been on Dark and Dynamite a couple times before, but he'll be on Rampage, and sorry I forgot his name, but he'll face Jay Lethal on Rampage. Samoa Joe responded saying that he'll be looking for Lethal on Friday's Rampage. The Gun Club and the Acclaimed were backstage. The Gun Club gifted the Acclaimed scissors. And, an alliance seems to be formed between the Gun Club and the Acclaimed. The Acclaimed, now I will say, now to segment, I will say that I love the Acclaimed. I agree they should be on TV more because of how over they are. The Gun Club, of course they're really young. Of course, the sons of Billy Gunn. They're not where the acclaimed is, but a couple years, very could see them as the top tag team, if not one of the top tag teams in AEW. It's just AEW has the deepest tag team division in the world, so there's that. This is the segment I was talking about earlier a bit. The Varsity Blondes, Brian Pillman Jr., Griff Garrison, and Julia Hart. They were in the ring, and they panned to John Harbaugh because John Harbaugh, again, I mentioned, was a roommate of Brian Pillman Jr.'s dad. So, Brian Pillman Jr. talked about how they've kind of lost their enthusiasm. They kind of lost their ammo, and they've been kind of content as of recently. And, well, since the carnage that happened due to the House of Black many months ago. So, Brian Pillman said that, well, now they've rekindled their drive, they rekindled their fire, their enthusiasm, and they called out the House of Black for a fight. Ask and you shall receive. So, the House of Black, Malachi, Brody King, and Buddy Matthews, they all came out there. It was also noted the other day that Buddy Matthews is now dating Rhea Ripley. So, good for him. Good for him. But, so, they're out there, and, a 3-on-2 attack. I was really curious because we know the attention to Julia Hart's eye, the way it has been the last couple of weeks, since, obviously, Black spewed the miss in Hart's eye. So, there's the attack. Dante's Inferno on Pillman that took him out. So, Julia Hart, she was kind of frozen in the corner. So, Malachi Black then came over to her and she was just shaking. She was just shaking. So, then Buddy Matthews took her over, and then Brody King had a chair. And he offered it up to Julia Hart, and Griff Garrison was down in the middle of the ring, and the House of Black told Julia to finish him And Julia Hart, we're anticipating it because we know what's been building. So, Julia Hart, she had the chair, she raised it up, she thought about it, and Griff was trying to reason with her, and Julia Hart was hesitant. She did not go through with it. She did not whack Garrison with the chair. So then, obviously, Black was pissed off that Julia Hart didn't give in. So then he went over to her, said some words in disappointment, and he took off her eye patch. And Julia Hart, she was just, I'm not sure what to say. She was like very emotional. That's all I can really say. She was very emotional. Like she was battling demons in her head as she was covering her messed up eye. So finally, the Death Triangle, Pac, Penta, and Fenix, they came down to save Julia on this conflict. So House of Black retreated. I mean, got the tease of it. But it didn't fully happen. I mean, look, I feel bad for the House of Black because, they were supposed to feud. They've been supposed to feud with the Death Triangle. But, I mean, with Pac's travel issues, with the injury of Phoenix, it's been unfortunate. Hopefully, with those two back, and perhaps with this progression of the Julia Hart thing, perhaps now we are seeing the House of Black more and more on TV like we should. Then we went from that to this. Rey Fenix versus Dante Martin, the final qualifying match for the men in the Owen Hart Cup tournament. This was as crazy as you can expect with two high flyers of this caliber. Now, the other day on Twitter, and we can kind of figure, and it was confirmed, Dante's brother Darius, he posted a picture saying with the caption, but they said my ACL looked very good or great. That was the caption, I believe. And he just looked not good, because we saw Darius return in that tag team battle royal alongside his brother, and he looked great. I mean, it's just unfortunate that a misdiagnosis, perhaps, but this match was hectic as you can expect. So, back from break, because that's where the real eye picked it up. Phoenix hit almost like a reverse Spanish Fly. So they were on the middle rope in like a back suplex like position. And they just flipped over. And Dante lands chest for a near fall by Fenix. Dante fired back with some offense. He had a high crossbody for a 2 count. Fenix, good spot here. So, Fenix, first it looked like he was going to drop him. Luckily, he didn't. So, he had him in a powerbomb-like position. And he just elevated him into a cutter for a near fall. Now, I will also say that I saw quite a few cutters on the edition of Dynamite. Now, I don't think this is actually the reason, but I won't be surprised because we had Randy Orton's 20th anniversary, 20-year anniversary of being in WWE. And we know Randy Orton is the master of the RKO. And we saw quite a bit of cutters here. So, I mean, that's just a little idea to float around there. So, anyway, that was a nice move for a near fall. And then the spot of the match. So, it looked like, again, so they were on the top rope in like a Russian leg sweep position. I think they were supposed to go for a Spanish Fly, but I think. So they flipped over both on their feet, and they were just side by side, and that was just a great visual. Just almost hilarious there. So that was kind of funny. So finally, Phoenix won with a Thunder Driver. 1, 2, 3. And Phoenix gets the victory, and he's in the Owen Hart Cup tournament. He will face Kyle O'Reilly in the first round of the Owen Hart Cup tournament. That's an interesting one to look forward to. Well, actually, I'll go over the bracket right now. So, they plugged it up. So, it'll be Phoenix versus Kyle O'Reilly, like I just said. Then the winner will face the winner of Samoa Joe versus a Joker. So we'll have a Joker, a surprise in the Owen Hart Cup tournament. Now, I am mixed bag on this. Simply because, well, we've had 7 guys, and maybe this was a design or it was rushed, but 7 guys qualified for the Owen Hart Cup, and we'll have a Joker versus Samoa Joe. So, a little curious to see how that's going to go down, because the Joker against Samoa Joe, I mean, a few interesting possibilities as to who it could be. I mean, I don't think it'll be Jay Lethal. I don't think it'll be Samad Singh. I mean, why have a Joker if it's one of those two? Maybe it's the returning Miro. There's out there. Or Cesaro of WWE or aka Claudio. Interesting there. Or we'll see. It's interesting. It's a weird dynamic. But I predicted Kyle O'Reilly going over Fenix. So there's that. Should be a good match here. Now on the other side of the bracket. So we got, and both matches will be happening next week. Darby Allin versus Jeff Hardy. That is a dream match. You know, that'll go down next week. I mean, the similarities there. Darby Allin, Jeff Hardy. I mean, that's going to be a fun match to look forward to next week. Adam Cole, baby, versus Dax Harwood. That's another intriguing match. Because we know both can go in the ring. That'll be fun as well, but I don't see... If I had to predict right now, I'd say Darby Allin beats Jeff Hardy. Adam Cole beats Dax. Adam Cole for Darby Allin. That is gonna be that would be a banger, a hell of a match. And I got Adam Cole over Darby, and then that's intriguing. The Joker, well, we'll have to see, because could be. I mean, I would love to see Adam Cole for Samoa Joe. I would love to see that, but considering the Joker is, who knows? But it's interesting. So we got Thunder Rosa, who it's good to hear more from. This segment promo was good. So she talked about her story on stage. She talked about, well, her beginnings, her being able to be a bloodline and a cornerstone for this division, being now the AEW World Champion, Women's Champion. And she talked about a story of driving 8 hours in California to see one person. And then she called out the number one contender, Serena Deeb. And oh boy, this just, the feel of the match, it's just gonna be fun. So she called out Deeb. Deeb said, well, she respects Thunder Rosa for her journey to get to the AEW World Women's Championship. But everyone knows that Serena Deeb is on another level when it comes to women's wrestling. And they said that, yeah, because Thunder Rosa has the title, she's number one. Well, but Serena Deeb said, now it's time for her to have the AEW World Championship and for her to be recognized as the number one women's wrestler. So she called her shot for Double or Nothing. And this is going to be a fun match. It's going to be a fun match for Thunder Rosa and their title run in Vegas. Rivalry renewed. Couldn't think of anything better. Thunder Rosa, Serene Deeb, May 29th. It's going to be fun. Main event. Mercedes-Martias versus Deonna Purazzo, making her AEW debut. Women's match for the Undisputed Ring of Honor Women's Championship. Decent match, but now we know how good Deonna Purazzo is. Mercedes-Martias, I think what may have been a little weird for this match was Purazzo is a heel, and Mercedes-Martias, she's been kind of a tweener / babyface as of late since turning on Britt Baker. But she's a badass, so felt kind of strange for the crowd, but still did well. So in the break, they were fighting on the apron. Mercedes hit a spear to Perazzo on the apron. And then Perazzo sent Mercedes shoulder first in the post, laying her down for a bit. Mercedes fired back some offense, hit some lariats, some shots from the corner, then hit a corner drop kick for 2 count. Purazzo fired back with a big boot, followed a standing moonsault for a 2 count. Mercedes then hit a nice fisherman buster, which almost got the win. But the finish of the match came, so Mercedes hit a fireman's carry slam, leveling Purazzo. Then she hit a curb stomp, and then the way she won the interim Ring of Honor Women's Championship over Will Nightingale, she won here. She went for Romero Special Dragon Sleeper. Purazzo tried to fire out of it, but to no avail. Mercedes powered out of it, Mercedes walked on, and Deonna with nowhere to go, tapped out, and Mercedes-Martias is now the undisputed Ring of Honor Women's Champion. That's interesting. AEW wrestlers now have 3 Ring of Honor championships. Or actually 4. I should say 4. Yeah. FTR is the tag team champions, being the Briscoes. Wheeler Yuta defeated or won the Pure Championship. Samoa Joe beat Minoru Suzuki for the Ring of Honor TV title. And now Mercedes-Martinez is the undisputed Ring of Honor Women's Championship. Good to see Deonna on a bigger scale. She was in NXT for a bit, but they didn't do anything with her, which I'm surprised. But it still was good to see. And not a match to and Dynamite. So good stuff there. But nonetheless, that's the episode for you guys. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Friday's Rampage will be a different start time, earlier, 5:30 or 3:30, depending where you live. But yeah, earlier start time. So be up for that. But either way, I'll have your AEW Rampage review for you guys on Saturday. So keep an eye open for that. But nonetheless, hope you guys enjoyed the podcast. If you did, be sure to click that like, leave a thumbs up. Also, the description there. Find more videos on the homepage. And keep up with the channel. But thank you all. Be safe. I'm at Joe Tone Love. Peace.